You wake up after just 4 hours of sleep. Your eyes open, but your brain isn't really awake. You reach for your phone. You check messages. Maybe you grab coffee and start your day. Everything feels normal. You can walk, you can talk, you can even work, but something strange is happening inside your head. Your brain is now making decisions with the judgment of someone legally drunk. And the worst part? You probably don't even realize it. Because the more sleep you lose, the worse your decisions become. Sleep deprivation doesn't feel dramatic. You don't suddenly collapse. You don't instantly lose consciousness. Instead, your brain slowly begins shutting down the systems responsible for judgment. And it happens step by step. Let's start with one missed night of sleep. After about 17 hours awake, your brain already starts to struggle. Reaction time slows. Focus slips. But here's the shocking part. At this stage, your cognitive performance is roughly equal to having a blood alcohol level of 0.05%. Keep going. Stay awake 24 hours, and the impairment rises to about 0.10% alcohol level. That's higher than the legal driving limit in most countries. Except there's no smell of alcohol, no obvious signal, just a tired brain quietly making worse and worse decisions. Inside your head, one region takes the biggest hit, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain responsible for logical thinking, impulse control, long-term planning, risk evaluation. In other words, the part that stops you from doing something stupid. But sleep deprivation turns this system down. At the same time, another part of the brain becomes more active, the amygdala. This region controls emotions and fear responses. So now something strange happens. Your emotional brain becomes stronger. Your logical brain becomes weaker. Imagine driving a car where the accelerator suddenly works twice as hard, but the brakes barely respond. That's your mind without sleep. At first, the mistakes seem harmless. You forget names. You send emails with errors. You misplace your keys. But the real danger isn't memory. It's decision-making. Sleep-deprived people consistently show the same behavioral pattern. They become more impulsive, more risk-seeking, more emotionally reactive. And the brain starts doing something strange with rewards. Normally, when you evaluate a decision, your brain balances risk versus reward. But without sleep, reward systems become overactive. Risk evaluation becomes weaker. So suddenly, bad decisions start looking like good ideas. Scientists tested this with a simple experiment. Participants were given a gambling task. They could choose between safe options or risky high-reward options. People who slept normally chose a balanced strategy, but sleep-deprived participants behaved very differently. Their brains showed 300% more activity in reward centers. They chased bigger rewards, ignored warning signs, and made dramatically riskier choices. In other words, sleep deprivation doesn't just make you slower, it makes you overconfident and reckless. Now we add emotions to the mix. Normally, the brain keeps emotional reactions under control. Your prefrontal cortex acts like a regulator. It calms your reactions before they explode. But when you lose sleep, this regulation breaks, and emotional responses skyrocket. Brain scans show that sleep-deprived people experience up to 60% stronger emotional reactions to negative events. A small inconvenience feels huge. A minor disagreement turns into an argument. A normal problem feels like a disaster. This is why sleep-deprived people often report irritability, anxiety, sudden anger, emotional overreactions. It's not just moodiness. Your brain literally loses emotional control. But there's something even stranger. When the brain becomes extremely tired, parts of it begin to shut down temporarily, for just a few seconds. These are called microsleeps. They last anywhere from 1 to 10 seconds. During this time, your eyes can remain open. You might even keep moving, but your brain is not processing reality. For example, at highway speeds, a 5-second microsleep means driving over 100 meters completely blind. This is why sleep deprivation causes so many accidents. Not because people fall asleep, but because their brain disconnects for just a moment. And sometimes, one moment is all it takes. Some of the worst human mistakes in history share a common factor: extreme sleep deprivation. In hospitals, sleep-deprived doctors are more likely to misdiagnose patients. In aviation, exhausted pilots have made navigation errors. In industrial settings, sleep-deprived operators have triggered catastrophic accidents. When humans are pushed beyond their sleep limits, our judgment collapses, and the results can be devastating. Not because people were careless, but because their brains were running on empty. Here's the most dangerous part. Sleep-deprived people believe they're functioning normally, even when their performance drops dramatically. This is called sleep deprivation blindness. Your brain loses the ability to accurately judge its own performance. It's like trying to measure distance with a broken ruler. You think you're doing fine, but your brain is quietly deteriorating, decision by decision, hour by hour. Scientists used to think sleep was just rest, but now we know it's something much deeper. During sleep, your brain clears toxic waste. Memories are reorganized, emotional circuits reset, neural connections rebalance. Sleep is essentially overnight maintenance for the brain. Without it, your brain becomes cluttered, unstable, and inefficient. Like a computer running too many programs without restarting. Eventually, things start to crash. The strange thing is, modern culture often treats sleep as optional. People brag about sleeping 4 hours, working all night, grinding without rest. But biologically, the human brain was never built for that. Millions of years of evolution designed our minds around one rule. Sleep is not a luxury. It's a biological necessity. And when we ignore it, our thinking, emotions, and judgment begin to unravel. Slowly, quietly, and often without us noticing. Tonight, when you feel tempted to stay up a little longer, scroll a little more, work a little harder, remember what's happening inside your brain. Because every hour of lost sleep isn't just fatigue. It's less control over your decisions, less emotional stability, less awareness of your own mistakes. In other words, the less you sleep, the more your brain begins making choices you normally never would. So here's the real question. If sleep deprivation quietly rewires the way we think, changes our emotions, and pushes us toward worse decisions, how many of the choices we make every day aren't actually ours at all, but the decisions of a brain that simply hasn't slept enough?